PC evolution as told by Wing Commander. So the first Wing Commander game, it launched in 1990, and I vividly remember looking at the box and it had written on it 3D Space Combat Simulator. So Wing Commander is halfway in between an action game and a simulator. It's really easy to get into, but complex enough to have interesting missions, and it's certainly not as complicated as playing a game like Falcon. The graphics were cutting edge, we had amazing music and awesome sound effects. The missions had branching, so there was an interesting story with really fleshed out characters. And the essence of the game is, well, you play as a human and you are fighting against the Kilrathi in space. You get to fly different ships, fly with different wingmen, you earn promotions and medals, and there are also good and bad mission endings. And you can, during missions, give commands to your wingman, even sending them back to base if you want to grab all the kills for yourself. All in all, it was nothing like any other game I've seen before, and I really felt that I was part of something amazing and game-changing. The first Wing Commander game, unlike the sequels, was mostly purely about the action. Now, it had some hints at this idea of having a cinematic game, but it was quite subtle. You could walk around the ship and you could speak, for example, with the bartender and the other pilots, but it was quite subtle compared to the later Wing Commander games. Wing Commander might have also been one of the first games with something that we call a DLC now. So you could buy 2 secret missions add-on discs and you got new levels, new ships, a more deeper story, and they were also quite hard. In general, the first Wing Commander is not an easy game. In terms of technology, the game supported EGA and VGA graphics. The machine I played it on first was a 286 with EGA graphics. It had 10 megahertz and a PC speaker. So ideally you want to have something much faster. Now with VGA you got beautiful graphics. They were animated with lots of detail. You can move around different areas of the ship. There are mission briefings that set the tone for when you launch into space. There are cutscenes that progress the story at key events in the game, and also nice little details like you can see a hand that moves with your joystick while you play the game. At the time the game was quite demanding. You wanted to have a 386 with around 20 to 25 megahertz. Wing Commander is a speed sensitive game, so on most machines it will run either too slow or too fast, with a 386 20 to 25 megahertz being the sweet spot. But even then, at occasions when there's lots going on the screen, it might run a little bit too slow. It also supported expanded memory. At that time, memory configuration was important, and in Wing Commander you wanted to get all the animations and sound effects. Without optimal memory configuration, well, you would get reduced graphics. For example, you wouldn't get the hand that moved while you play with the joystick. The music and the sound effects in the games, well, they're also impressive. On the low end you had the PC speaker sound with a very bare-bone experience, but if you had an Adlib soundboard or a Sound Blaster sound card, you would get much better FM synthesis. And if you were a lucky owner of a Roland MT32, well, then you got an audio experience like nothing before. The game is best enjoyed with a joystick, and all in all, the first Wing Commander is a game-changing title. It raised the bar in terms of technology, but also what games are concerned. With Wing Commander 2, the game really started to move from a more action-oriented game to something resembling a cinematic experience. It starts with the introduction, which is like a movie with really excellent voice acting, and throughout the game there are many more dialogues compared to the first game, with cutscenes happening at different locations even during the flight, and often having twists and turns in the plot, keeping you engaged. The graphics are very similar to the first game, maybe slightly improved. I really like the explosions, they are absolutely beautiful. The entire game is a little bit more fast paced, it's a little bit easier than the first Wing Commander, and there's definitely more dialogue, the story is deeper, and yeah, as I said before, interesting events happening during the mission to really feel you more immersed. Just like in the first game, we got 2 expansion packs. They're called Special Operations. And again, well, you had more missions and a more fleshed out story, plugging some of those plot holes of the first game. The game, all in all, is slightly more demanding compared to the first title. It runs best on a fast 386 or an entry-level 486. Compared to the first game, now we have some frame pacing options that you can access through keyboard shortcuts to dial in the speed a little bit more detailed. The audio was also absolutely amazing, and we had a few technological breakthroughs. Wing Commander 2 is one of the first games with digital speech. They would sell an optional speech accessory pack and you would get voice acting in the introduction sequence. Very impressive for the time. Also, this game supports 2 sound devices simultaneously. So if you had a decked out machine with a Sound Blaster and a Roland MT32, this game could use them both at the same time. In 1995 we got Wing Commander 3 Heart of the Tiger. So this game was quite different compared to the first games. It still runs under DOS, but we are now getting 3D polygon graphics compared to what were sprites in the previous games. And the resolution also got an upgrade. We can still play at VGA 320 by 200, but the game now supports VESA resolution at 640 by 480. We need a more capable machine for this game, so for VGA you could get away with a 486 DX2, but if you wanted to play it with SVGA graphics, you really needed a Pentium. The gameplay as such, I was a little bit disappointed. It's not a very smooth game, so you can enable a FPS counter and it tops out at 24 FPS. So this might be silky smooth for watching a movie, but for playing a fast action game, I've struggled with hitting the enemies and it can be quite frustrating. A standout feature of this game was the full motion video, taking the cinematic experience to a next level. It was filmed with a green screen, real actors, and then CGI backgrounds. The reception was mixed. Many, including me, we preferred the look and the feel of the older games, but it was certainly a very impressive technology. The full motion video, well, it required more storage. Wing Commander 1 and 2, they shipped on floppy disks, but Wing Commander 3, well, you found not 1, not 2, but 3 compact discs in the box. In regards to music and sound, we are now getting support for general MIDI and also Sound Blaster 16-bit quality. So this was the era of wavetable boards that you could plug onto your sound card to get better music. So all in all, Wing Commander 3, well, I mostly remembered it for the cinematics, but as far as a space action game, I have mixed opinions and I'm really curious to hear from you. What is your take on this game? Wing Commander 4, The Price of Freedom. This game launched in 1996 and here the full motion video, well, the quality improved. We now have real sets and everything got filmed in 35mm film and also a very impressive cast. The game shipped on 6 discs, which was a lot of storage. In terms of gameplay, I don't think it's much different to Wing Commander 3. It supports VGA and SVGA, so there are no improvements in this area. A little bit later we got DVD versions of that game and it supported MPEG decoding boards for full screen deinterlaced video, and those MPEG decoding boards, well, They were strategically bundled with DVD kits that you could install into your computer and then enjoy Wing Commander 4 with better graphics. And finally, we have Wing Commander Prophecy. This game launched in 1997. So this is not a DOS game anymore. The industry has moved on. This game runs under Windows. So all the previous games were released under MS-DOS. We all know that Windows 95 and 98, well, they still use DOS under the hood, but Windows games, from a technological point of view, they are quite different. The main difference is we have now support for 3D accelerated graphics. Direct 3D is supported, as well as the Glide API for Voodoo cards. I remember playing this game on a Pentium 133. I had a Righteous 3D Voodoo card and the game was absolutely silky smooth. So unlike Wing Commander 3 and 4, this game does run at 60 FPS. It is very smooth, very fluid, and it is much easier to really follow the enemies with the joystick and hit them. Speaking of the joystick, we now have USB game port and joystick support, so you can use a modern joystick like a Thrustmaster T16000 that works under Windows 98 beautifully with this game, supporting the throttle and the rudder, for example. Also very interesting, the Secret Ops expansion levels, they were distributed on a weekly basis online, and then later you could buy Wing Commander Prophecy Gold, which included the main game as well as Secret Ops. So guys, in just 7 years, well, it's an amazing progress for the PC industry. We started off with a 286 or a 386 computer, EGA or VGA graphics under DOS with a floppy drive, and then all the way to 3D accelerated high resolution graphics with a Pentium covering, 3 generations of microprocessors, more RAM, faster and more storage, and of course the move from floppy disks to CD-ROM and even to DVDs, as well as the patches and DLCs being distributed online. If you are excited and you want to play Wing Commander, I can definitely recommend the first and the second title to you. That is if you have experience with DOS games. If you are younger and the DOS graphics, well, they do look quite dated, then I would recommend start off with Wing Commander Prophecy. Wing Commander 3 and 4, well, it's still a DOS game. It does have higher resolution, but I find the gameplay just a little bit clunky because of that low frame rate. So I actually don't quite enjoy these two games. But yeah, what is your opinion? Which Wing Commander game is your favorite? Share your thoughts down below in the comment section. And finally, I want to talk about where can you buy these games, what about playing them on a modern machine, and what about if you want to run them on a retro gaming PC. So all the games in this video I purchased from GOG and they will run on a modern computer just fine. The first 4 games, they're all DOS based, they run with DOSBox. Although Wing Commander 4 by default, it's a Windows version, you can go into the extras section and download the DOSBox version. And Wing Commander Prophecy, that runs under Windows 11 with nGlide. I had to go into the settings, change the render to Vulkan, and there was another setting I had to change to integer scaling, and then the game runs beautifully. To play on a retro gaming PC, you can also use the versions from GOG. Wing Commander 1, you just copy the game folders. It is missing the installation executable, so if you want to change the sound options, you need to edit a configuration file. If you go to the GOG forums, you will find a post from me where I explain exactly what you need to do. Wing Commander 2 is a perfect release. The installer is included, so just copy it onto your retro gaming PC. Wing Commander 3, the ISO is supplied, so just rename the large file in the game folder to an ISO, burn it onto a DVD, and you can install it on a retro DOS PC. Wing Commander 4, you need to go into the extras and download the DOS version. and then you will find a CD folder. Just burn the contents of that folder onto a DVD, and that is also the installation version for your retro gaming PC. And Wing Commander Prophecy, I believe it will run natively under Windows 95 or 98. You just have to remove the nglide files, but I wasn't able to test it out because at the moment I don't have access to my parts at the moment. They're going into storage. And there you have it, guys. We saw the amazing PC advancements from 1990 to 1997 as told by Wing Commander. And now I want to hear from you. Please share your thoughts down below in the comment section. And that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I shall see you soon with another one.